In this movie, I'll show you how to use the rectangle tool. And we're going to use that tool to create every element of the handle of this magnifying glass. But we're not going to draw the handle at an angle because that would be hard. It's much easier to draw the handle perpendicularly and then rotate it into place, as we will do in a future movie. All right, I'll go ahead and switch over to my illustration in progress here, and I'll press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac to center my zoom. And I'll go ahead and select the rectangle tool, which is the first tool here inside of this floating toolbar, or you can go ahead and click and hold on the ellipse tool and choose the rectangle tool from the top of the flyout menu. And notice that it has a keyboard shortcut of M. And the reason I mention that is because that comes to us from Photoshop, where M stands for marquee. And so that's Adobe's attempt at creating parity between the two products. All right, so obviously one way to use the rectangle tool is to drag from one corner to another. And assuming that your smart guides are turned on, you'll see a heads-up display telling you the width and height of your perspective shape. And once you get something you like, you just go ahead and release in order to accept that change. Now notice that you have the option when working with these so-called smart rectangles of changing their shape right after drawing them. So you can resize them on the fly just by dragging either a corner handle or one of the top, bottom, or side handles. And that option is available to you as long as the rectangle tool is selected. If you go ahead and switch back to the black arrow tool, whether by clicking on it at the top of the toolbox or pressing the V key, then you lose that option, assuming, of course, that your bounding box is turned off, as I suggested in an earlier chapter. But if I switch back to the rectangle tool, then those handles come back again. These little gadgets right here, these circles, they allow you to change the roundness of a corner on the fly just by dragging, as you see here. And I'll show you more about what's going on with dynamic round corners in the next movie. But I just want you to know this is why I'm going to dismiss the rounded rectangle tool entirely. You can check it out if you like, but all it does is create rectangles that are rounded by default. Otherwise, its behavior is no different. All right, other ways to use the rectangle tool. If while dragging with the tool, you press and hold the Shift key and keep that key down until you release the mouse button, then you'll create a perfect square. Or you can go ahead and draw a path from the center outward by pressing and holding the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac as you drag. And I might as well create the first element of the handle here. I want it to be 460 points wide and 64 points tall, as we're seeing right here. And of course, I do want it to be center aligned with this horizontal guideline. All right, now that I've got this nearly where I want it, I'll press and hold the Control key or the Command key on the Mac to get my last used arrow tool, the black arrow, on the fly. And then I'll just go ahead and drag this guy by its center point over until it snaps into alignment, which it's not doing properly. So I'll go ahead and undo that change, and I'll try again by Control or Command dragging this right edge. And that time I got it to snap into place. You also have that option of spacebar dragging. So let's say I begin a shape right here at the intersection of these two center guides. I'll go ahead and drag outward, and then I'll press the Alt or Option key on the Mac so that I'm creating the shape from the center out. And I'll watch out for my heads-up display to read a width of 102 points and a height of 40 points. This is so much easier just to dial in these values, but I'm going to get it right. I have it right now. And once you get those values, if you're plugging along with me, then go ahead and press the space bar in order to move that shape over to the right until it snaps into alignment with the previous rectangle. And then you can go ahead and release both keys in order to draw that shape. And if you're working along with me here on a PC, then you may see this OS level menu pop up on screen. And that's because we had the Alt and spacebar keys down at the same time. In which case, just press the Escape key in order to make that pesky menu go away. All right, now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And let's say I want to create some rectangles of a very specific size. In that case, you click with the rectangle tool to bring up the rectangle dialog box. And you can just go ahead and dial in those values. I want to create some very thin rectangles that have a width of 8 points and a height of 48 points. And once again, if you turn that chain on, if you turn on the link, then these values are going to change relatively. They're not going to necessarily be the same unless, of course, they started out the same. Anyway, I'm going to take that width value back down to 8 points. So 8 and 48 is what we're looking for, at which point click OK. in order to create that rectangle. If you want to create a rectangle from the center out, then you Alt or Option click like so, and then click OK, and it will be centered as we're seeing right here. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in a little, and I'll press the V key in order to switch to my black arrow tool. And what I need to do is move these shapes backward a little bit so that they're not in front of the rings of the magnifying glass. So I'm going to go ahead and partially marquee these 4 rectangles, and I'll right-click anywhere inside the document window, choose Arrange, and then choose Send to Back in order to move those shapes all the way back. And as you can see, they're now in back of the ring. At which point, I want you to go ahead and select this rectangle by clicking on its center point and then drag it over while pressing the Shift key until it snaps into alignment with the rim of this outer circle. And then press the left arrow key twice to scoot that rectangle out 2 points. All right, now we're going to do the same thing with this guy. I'll go ahead and click on its center point, drag it down until it snaps into alignment right there at the intersection of these 2 guys, and then press the right arrow key a couple of times to scoot that guy 2 points to the right. Now I'm still covering up this first rectangle, and that's because paths are stacked by default in the order that you draw them. So left to its own devices, Illustrator is going to put the most recent path at the top of the stack. And this guy's an older path, as we can see. And so the easiest way to put him right in front of this path is to go up to the Edit menu and choose the Cut command, or press Control-X or Command-X on the Mac in order to move that path to the clipboard, and then select that shape right there, the one that you want to paste it in front of, and then go to the Edit menu and choose the Paste in Front command, or press Control-F here on the PC or Command-F on the Mac, and we end up with this effect here. And now, with this path selected, I'm going to go up to the control panel and I'm going to click on this first swatch right here and change it to black so that we have a black handle. And now I'll click off the path outline to deselect it, and I'll press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac in order to center my zoom. And that's how you use the rectangle tool to achieve some highly practical results here inside Illustrator.